on its feet. Tried to spin your lies, but the sun's too bright to beat. Dressed up history like a mask you wear, but the past is roaring louder as you fade into the air. Every story carved in stone, every legend we've been shown. Now you're turning away, oh yeah, but you can't outrun the day. Light of day. You can keep running, but the truth is coming. There's no stopping it, no. Rising fire, feel the hearts inspire. You can't hide away, no. But you can keep running, but the truth is coming. There's no stopping it, no. Rising fire, feel the hearts inspire. You can't hide away, no.
It's time for a toast. That's right, to you, and you working on your car while listening to this video on a playlist. That's right, that you help the numbers go up that much more, and I can't help but notice that after all of this attention, not just on our channel here on Bounding Into Comics, but across most of gaming news, has taken notice of how abusive Ubisoft has been to Japan. Well, as you can see right here, they've decided to pull out of the Japanese game show 2024. That's not the game show where they're running up greased staircases. That's not the game show where they're eating chocolate that's made to look like door handles and shoes and things that chocolate shouldn't be made out of otherwise. But however, I want to give a toast to you, so we'll give a minute here. I've been vamping as we started the video. Hopefully by now you've grabbed your favorite drink. If you have it in hand, please hold it up. And here we are, a toast to you. That's right, we have successfully taken Ubisoft off the playing board in Japan for at least this show. It's sparkling cider, by the way. I don't drink alcohol. I'm just going to put that over there and probably knock it off in a few seconds. It'll be great. But anyway, as you can read right here, Ubisoft has announced cancellation of the official Tokyo Game Show 2024 exhibit program. Their participation in it. The whole thing isn't over with, but their participation in it is over with. And so they had a gift campaign that was going on to commemorate the exhibit, but however, the exhibit won't exist, but the gift to commemorate it will, I guess. A little weird. A lot of that going around lately, like the Concord controller that just is really neat looking, but now has no home. Isn't that funny? All the Concord merch over on the Sony store that's inexplicably for sale, but no game to back it. A little bit of that going around. So now you can win a prize regarding Ubisoft's exhibit at the Japan Game Show 2024. However, there will be no exhibit in which the prize was based around, so isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? But I do want to take this moment here and remind you all that it is because of you, right? I said it just a moment ago, but I want to say it again because, damn, we did it. That's right. I'm giving everybody credit here, all right? I'm giving everybody credit here. That's everybody. It's not just us here at BIC, but around the gaming news information sphere. We have taken a baseball bat to these weirdos, figuratively, not really. Please don't take that as an invitation to go do anything in real life. We are laughing at their insanity and bizarre choices. That's all we're here to do, and we've got a lot of those to talk about to commemorate this wonderful event. It's not a clip show. Don't worry, it's not a clip show. I wouldn't break out the sparkling cider for a clip show. Ah, damn. Just tastes like victory. But I digress. Let's get back into what we're talking about here. That's right, the Japanese people have demonstrated to be that big of a threat to Ubisoft, okay? Think about this. You are a multinational, multi-million-dollar, possibly multi-billion-dollar organization, and you're afraid of some Japanese people showing up to your exhibit at a public access game show, like Expo, you know, like a convention. You're worried about them showing up and perhaps maybe confronting you over some decisions that you've made and things that you've said with a great deal of authority, if you will. Perhaps false authority. So that's, I guess, what happened. I can't research this because I'm not in Japan to check it out. I don't have a way to Google that. I don't know how to check this. But as far as I know, in Japan, random protests are not allowed to happen. Please correct me in the comments below. But as far as I know, in order to protest something, like traditionally stand on the street corner with signs and a megaphone, you have to apply for a permit. And that permit notifies the space in which you intend to protest that you will be there. And they do have the right to refute your right to be there, to my knowledge. I could have that wrong. That the business or organization or whoever you're protesting has to allow the protest to happen. I think that's how it goes. Granted, I'm not sure because I don't live there and I can't research it. But as far as I know from the culture books I've read, that's how it works. But I could again, it could. My culture book times out in 2015. Okay, I haven't got a new one yet. All right, so I've gotten as far as I can. But as far as I know, protesting isn't allowed to happen. Let's just take it this way. Protesting isn't allowed to be spontaneous. Let's put it that way. There has to be an order to it. And also, as far as I know, in Japan, there's no word for civil disobedience. When you fall out of line with what the government wishes, you are effectively in the territory of a revolutionary. And this is stuff that comes from outsiders, not people who live in Japan that have blood with the land. This is from people who are immigrants, gaijin, however you want to describe them. They're just people that are over there that have imparted this knowledge just in their videos discussing what they've experienced living there for however many years. And so that's what I want to stress about this is that in my theory, again, we're going to do what Ubisoft does. They only have a little bit of information about Yasuke, and so they just decided to extrapolate a whole bunch of crazy things. They had some help. Remember Mr. Lockley? They had some help, right, with writing their fan fiction. But let's extrapolate what maybe happened here with Ubisoft throwing in the towel, as it were, and going ahead and forgoing the Japan game show. I'm just stalling here as I grab this page. So here it is. Remember the investment firm just a few weeks ago, just back here on September 9th, okay, of 2024. I don't know when you'll be looking at this video. But the investment firm that one of many rather, this is JA or AJ. This is AJ Investments. This is a minor investor that has gotten together with other investors within Ubisoft's portfolio and said, hey, we're going to go ahead and say, stop what you're doing. Do you want to join us? And as it turns out, everybody but the big guys at the top end of the major donor list wants out of this program. They want Ubisoft to go private. That's right. That's what the goal of this is. The shareholders are hostages of the Gilman family and Tencent. Now, again, Tencent's a major donor. I don't know if they're driving this. I don't know. You have to understand that while Tencent is kind of a menacing force, if you will, on a global front as far as like U.S. foreign policy is concerned, when it comes to these stupid things like these silly games where they're rewriting history, that's more BlackRock's territory. That's more where they tend to put their foot in their mouth, I guess you put it, where they put their money down, is when they want to go in and rewriting history. Tencent's more about putting in like spyware and like microtransactions and doing their very best to extrapolate as much data out of you. That's kind of Tencent's MO. They're not usually involved with narrative structure or like the politics of it. And I'll remind everybody too, these investors are all in Europe. These are not American investors. This call was to deal with the European investors. And so that's what these people are talking about here. So Ubisoft pulling out of this game show expo, this convention, may not have been just out of the blue, right? As their post seems to suggest that it was just, we'll be next year, we'll see you later, whatever, I don't read Japanese. I don't need to. Wonder why? Because the internet does, and they let us know what it says. So we've got over here, another person has run into this, okay? So I did not realize that Ubisoft was doing like the cute little big head characters to compete with the pops, the Funko Pop things. Like anybody needs to do that, right? You need more junk on your shelf. I'm sorry, if you collect those things, that's your thing. Great. I find it a bit over the top. But I don't collect things, right? I collect dust. That's about it around here. So I get it. I'm not a collector guy. So when I use these dismissive words, just understand, man, from my perspective, I don't get it. That's all, okay? I'm sure there's things that I'm into that you can't fathom either, my interest in them, right? And that's fine. We're all from different planets, you know? Okay, that was weird. Not different planets, but like different planets of influence, I guess. That's a better way to put it. We're not aliens. Some of us might be. I might be. Who knows? Back to this thing. So we have Dixie Boo Rising here, and he says, well, at Ubisoft was absolutely okay with using the Nagasaki atomic bomb memorial. I should have read this before I brought it up. As set dressing for a glorified Funko Pop. I have no idea why they would cancel their Tokyo Game Show appearance. Right. No idea. Any updates on the anti-Asian racism apology Ubisoft support? Look at that. Look at that. There it is, the surviving part of the Torii Gate, and it's behind Yasuke, and he looks very demure, very bemused, and then there's Naue just sitting on top of it. Like it's an overpass. She's gonna throw some rocks down on some Templars' cars. Bottles of pee. Did they do that where you live? That happens around here. It's hillbilly stuff, I guess. I don't know. But there it is. There it is. This stuff makes my nose itch. I'm sorry. You see me scratch my nose? It's because this stuff just makes my nose itch. It's one of those curses, I guess. I don't know. You see in anime all the time when somebody sneezes, it's when somebody's talking about you. This stuff just, it doesn't make me want to sneeze. My nose just itches. So somewhere in the world, someone is like raging about cider right now. Must be something like that, right? I don't know. This is ridiculous. Like, again, this is the memorial, okay? This is to memorialize. You see they have the ribbons tied to it. Again, this is not meant to be like a maypole or something. This is to commemorate what happened in World War II when the U.S., my country, bombed Japan with the first nuclear bombs. Well, rather, the first war-used nuclear bombs. They had tested a few before. And so this is to commemorate the lives lost there, and now Naue is sitting on top of it, and a Yasuke that is very bored with the whole thing is glaring at you. He's judging you. You don't like him enough. See that expression? That expression is, what do you mean you don't like a black samurai? That's what that expression says. I bet they thought they were clever too. I bet they said that to themselves when they finally got the printout. They made the voice. They're like, what do you mean you don't like black samurai? Right? I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Man, that makes me angry. Like, I just, ooh. You can see me turning red here. This makes me so angry. Like, this is, thousands of people died. This is like we found out just yesterday that they are working on the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed Fortnite Fall Guys thing. So they're going to do like an arena hero shooter thing like Halo Elite, but probably not with PvP combat because it'd be pretty boring. Being an assassin means you camp. You wait for your target. You're slow. You take very methodical effort, you know, very methodical steps to get to where you want to go and all of that, right? It's not like high action where you're jumping into the air with a shotgun that looks like it's from Looney Tunes that shoots tomatoes or something. You know, I think that was Killer Farmers or something like that. There was that game. We had a tomato gun. Either way, this on top of that, right? So now, like, I want to get into that, right? I forgot where I was going. My apologies. There's so much going on. I didn't know this was happening. When I started this video, I did not know. I just saw the Funko Pop. I did not know what that meant, okay? That is awful. We'll go back and take a look at this stupid toy they made out of it. People died, okay? Now we find out that there's going to be an Assassin's Creed parkour, Fall Guys, team versus team, Overwatch kind of thing. Maybe not PvP. I'm not sure yet. It's not clear. We did a video about it. I will have that. When the video ends, it'll be right there. It'll pop up as a referred video, and you can find out more about it. We had more information just a bit ago. But in that game that's coming up, they're going to have a level where you have to escape the lava in Pompeii. Now, if you're not familiar, because, you know, people around the world might not know about Pompeii, it's, you know, the West is familiar with it, and maybe not the East. But thousands of years ago, during the time of, I believe, the Greeks, there was a very large volcanic explosion on the island of Pompeii. And that resulted in like a massive release of energy all at once. It wasn't a polite little burp up. It went all at once. And those that were not lost in the explosion were effectively, in a microwave when you turn it on, there's hot air in there. It's not radiation, it's hot air that cooks your food. It's like a convection thing. Yeah, that's what happened to those people, and in such a speed that their bodies were preserved rapidly as stone or stone-like, if you will. And so very, very awful things happened to these people. They were encrusted with this molten stone dust that's preserved their bodies and in all sorts of different horrific positions as the realization of their fate fell upon them. And now you'll be playing like a parkour Smash Brothers. You got to escape the lava so you don't end up like those dorks. Yeah, that's what they're doing. So it doesn't surprise me that they disgrace and dishonor the deaths of thousands of people in this wartime situation by having their characters in a chibi-style fashion, in a Funko Pop-style fashion, not even represented in like a serious fashion as though they are like being respectful for this. Like, it would be one thing if Yasuke was kneeling, he had his helmet off, and he was praying, right? Maybe Naoi had her hand on his shoulder, right? Wouldn't that be nice? Or she was on her knees too, and she was praying to her ancestors. Perhaps that would be okay. Maybe they're standing there and they have their hands on each other's shoulders and their heads are bowed down as they pay reverence to it. Maybe that would have been okay. No, we're gonna just have them pose on it like it's an overpass somewhere. Yeah. And why didn't they show up? Why wouldn't they show up? Why wouldn't they show up? But we'll jump back into the past now. Let's jump back into just a few days ago on the 20th. Spencer Baculi brings us over on boundingintocomics.com. That's right, we've got a website attached to this channel. Japanese consultant cited for New York Times Assassin's Creed Shadows puff piece revealed as a former Sweet Baby Inc. employee. That's right, we found out that Kazuma Hashimoto, I'm pulling this out of memory. Kazuma Hashimoto was actually someone who worked for Sweet Baby Inc. and also a former employee of Ubisoft as one of their sensitivity testers, sensitivity readers, people that would be hired in to read a script and then tell the company that hired them, this is offensive here, this is offensive there. I felt very scared when a character did this. I felt very excited when a character did this. And that's what a sensitivity reading is that they put out basically what they have for how the story is supposed to go and how the characters talk. If they have something to show you, they do that. But otherwise, it's just left to people's own imagination. And that's why a lot of it ends up warping the story itself. Because wouldn't you know, people who are, hypersensitive to changes in tone, perhaps gruff banter between two men who are going to end up fighting each other to the unlife, right? Maybe that scares them because they're not used to that. And because of that feedback, the game changes. And this is what Kazuma was doing. This is what Kazuma was doing for Sweet Baby Inc., being a person who created character bios, who created plot foundations, and also backstories for certain minor characters as well. And so again, you're dealing with this whole apparatus. There's a whole system here. These aren't random events. This is why we go out of our way to connect these things together so that you out there who have regular jobs and regular lives and regular things to worry about don't have to track all this information down and keep track of it, right? That's for the crazy guys. Yeah, it's for the crazy guys. And so that's what we're doing here is we explain that there is a full cycle happening here because guess what? Little did you remember. I'm sure you guys out there just haven't figured that part out yet. It's not that you have any problem remembering it. It's just, it's not at the forefront of your mind. You'll remember that the Sweet Baby Inc. president herself was originally part of the Assassin's Creed Shadows development team. That's right. So remember that as we're talking about Kazuma Hashimoto and Kazuma Hashimoto's, most of this person's work, this is a trans rights activist, by the way, Kazuma, who has changed their pronouns from how they were born. I just don't want to get hit with the misgender thing. YouTube will kill channels for anything these days. I just don't want to get hit with it. So you know what I mean. This person changed their pronouns. Let's put it that way. All right? And so that's who you're dealing with. You're dealing with an activist who was then brought in by yet another activist, Zach Small, over on the New York Times article, the puff piece referenced here, that was meant to just scrub any like dissent that was in Japan about Assassin's Creed. The article mainly told Americans that everybody in Japan was waiting for this game to drop. And what do we find out today? Not so much. Assassin's Creed can't even bother to stop by and say hello. Isn't that interesting? You make a game to be based in a land and you pass up an opportunity in September when you're releasing in November on showing up to an event with other offerings as well. So there would be like some cross-contamination with people who may not have had a chance to investigate your product that deeply, but because it's across the way from Nintendo, they might come sit on your bench. Did you get that joke? Yeah. All right. Let's move on. So again, we have this other one. Back down the recent history rabbit hole we go. On September 12th, we reported that Assassin's Creed Shadows art director responds to criticism regarding game's depiction of Japan with, quote, "We've paid a lot of attention to stay as respectful as possible to Japanese culture, but creative choices are made on our side." Creative choices, like not showing up at Japan to explain those creative choices, right? Right? You wouldn't, like, lie about that, right? And then not want to explain it to actual Japanese historians or perhaps Japanese people with actual blood relations to the characters you're abusing within the game. I'll remind you that at some point, Yasuke and Naoe have to start unaliving actual Japanese historical figures. It happens in every game, so it has to happen now. Okay? So at some point, Yasuke is going to take that big iron club and go all Gallagher. Gallagher might be too old of a reference for some people, but basically taking a big old hammer and smashing a watermelon with it. Yeah. It's just, that's going to happen. That's going to happen with this. You're going to see that. You're going to see Yasuke, take his big old club and smack down on some fella's head. And that fella's going to be someone who was of historical prominence in this time period. Alternate history is such a problem. I was going to say another word. Such a problem when, you're not open about that. When you insist that you hired people and yet you've produced the most respectful possible depiction of Sengoku Japan despite all the mistakes you've made so far. And these are mistakes like the butt bowing. You remember the butt bowing in the trailer? And also, you remember the rice being left out and rice being mostly currency at this time? Being just left out in the midday sun, in the middle of winter, in the middle of a rainstorm. Who cares? Just rice, right? All the tatame mats that are suddenly rectangular, that are suddenly square now, as opposed to being rectangular. In fact, Nobunaga's court looking like a bunch of sorry boys that are being punished by their grandfather for their misbehavior. Yeah, all that. And that's just in what we've seen so far. I'm not even talking about the haunted coffee table or the moonwalking horse. That's just stuff that's like functional history that they're just going in and la-di-dying with, all the Japanese kanji that they're mixing up with Chinese kanji. I mean, again, the languages are a bit visually similar, but if you've done the research as you've claimed, Ubisoft, why have you done this? And you remember when they were at the Paris Expo, they went and bought Zolo's sword. They went and bought Zoro's sword. And, gosh, I gotta fix that. I got 4 kids stuck in my head. But they went and bought Zoro's sword. And they ended up having to explain nothing about that. They never addressed it whatsoever. But it was obvious. We even tracked it down. We pointed out where it was on Amazon, and they even had it on like a local French, like an Etsy store for France, I guess. We have this, but we're not on eBay kind of thing. It's not Amazon, not eBay kind of thing, I guess. And that's where they got it from. The whole thing, even the stand it was on, and it was Zoro's sword, right from One Piece. No mistaking it. Here we go again. So we had the stock plunge that I showed you in the beginning there. They're down 80%. from 5 years ago. Can you believe that? 80% from 5 years ago. How do you justify maintaining anything you're doing when you've lost 80% of your stock value in 5 years? That is astonishing, really, to sit down and try to calculate. That's less than a decade, okay? In 5 years. We're only talking about going back as far as 2018 now. Soon it'll be, 2018. Yeah, we're only as far as we're going back is 2018. That's it. We're not talking about going all the way back 2015, 2012, any of that. We're talking about going back to 2018, okay? This means that since 2018, they had a great spike in 2020 and 21, thanks to what happened with the COOF, right? And then all of a sudden, they drop right back down, okay? Bang. But so far, that even from the peak, even from those huge gains that they had during the lockdowns, they have sank 80% below pre-lockdown stocks, okay? That is amazing when you really sit down and think that they couldn't even maintain half the audience that they picked up thanks to the lockdowns. It's amazing. But we're still not done. As I said, it was like a clip show. We're going to talk this out. So, faced with all of that, Ubisoft is hit with more layoffs. Assassin's Creed and Star Wars Outlaw dev cuts 45 from the American offices. Now again, Assassin's Creed Shadows is not being developed by American studio. It is up in Quebec, all right? So these are studios that may have been helping out with the Assassin's Creed development, but this is not ground zero, if you will, of the Assassin's Creed development or the, I think it is the American studio that's handling Outlaws. You'll have to let me know. I think it is the American studio, the American Ubisoft that's putting out Outlaws. I'm not quite sure. You'll have to get back to me on that one. Let me know down in the comments if I'm right on that. I think so though. And this is just what we're looking at, they in order to deal with these, in order to make up for I guess the investors, they went through and I assume drew hats out of a letter. Yeah. Drew names out of a hat. All right. They drew names out of a hat and said, "Congratulations, you're fired, clean out your desk." Because quite obviously, whoever they fired, they didn't make anything better. Quite obviously. And so we'll go back in time again to August 12th, okay? August 12th of 2024. Assassin's Creed Shadows lead producer claims we are trying to create a game that is as authentic as possible. And you can see here Spencer chose quite a accurate featured image here. Accurate, you say. Accurate, you say. Now, we've had a very long discussion about Yasuke, right? We've had a very back and forth about this, but I want to remind everybody that even out in the wilds of AI, understanding and analyzing Twitter conversation, Instagram conversation, and Facebook conversation, and YouTube conversation, even AI concedes that the conversation around Yasuke is less toxic than the industry average, okay? So our discussions talking about Yasuke, the jokes we make about him even, are not as hostile as far as an AI that's looking for that says that other conversations are. Let's say about Star Wars Outlaws. Let's say you've got the stuff with Firewalk and Concord. In comparison to those things, to those conversations, those changes, the stuff they've done to God of War Ragnarok, all of that, the AI went through over 100,000 conversations on X, something around 50,000, 70,000 on Instagram, and so many hundreds of thousands on Facebook, and then so many, I think it was like 50,000 conversations on YouTube, analyzing all of the information it could about the conversation surrounding Yasuke on this, right? And it concedes that we're not being abusive. Not as abusive as what is average, I guess, in the discourse of what's going on today. And so I have to stress that thank you out there. Thank you to all of you that are going out and actually tackling the facts of this instead of just taunting them, right? It's very, very important that this information gets out because they like to frame people as just being rabid haters. That we're just out here foaming at the mouth, waiting to destroy anything out there that isn't I don't know, 1996, right? All over again, PlayStation 1 stuff, you know? They make this out to be like some horribly hostile environment for them. And in reality, for them, for their ideas, it probably is. But for you and me out here in the regular world, you out there having a regular job and me being crazy enough to do this YouTube stuff, you know, it's pretty obvious the mistakes that have been made here and why they're going through all of this, right? It's not that hostile. It's not that toxic. It's just discourse. People have different opinions. You'll see in the comments below, there will be people who disagree with what I have to say here. They'll disagree with the apple cider. There's no problem. It's sparkling cider. They'll disagree with that. That's fine. I don't drink. I'm sorry. It's just not my thing. Gave it up 10 years ago. It's just not my thing. Just like this isn't my thing with Yasuke. I want to stress something about him, okay? As we go through and talk about Yasuke, we talk about Yasuke more importantly, and we talk about what's been done to him, I want to make it clear that my stance on this, the stance that I retain, is that there's nothing wrong with having Yasuke as a playable character in the game. But I have a problem with him being robbed of his true identity. This was a real man. This is the first time in Assassin's Creed history that a lead protagonist character, I believe a character at all, is a real person that you can play. I believe they've only been NPCs up until this point. I could be wrong. But again, we're looking at this as a real person being drawn in and having his life completely rewritten. Now, I realize that there are people in this world that want to think very highly about what happened with this man, and they want to think that his history was downtrodden, downplayed, kept a secret because you know, for whatever reason the Japanese people didn't want to acknowledge such a legendary warrior that had done so much for them, right? That's their logic. Even though they did this with William Adams, made him a real samurai, like the whole rundown, absolute rundown of everything. Not even like implied, just the whole rundown. He got his own armor, his statues across the country dedicated to him. But they didn't do this to Yasuke, and I struggle with why they saw Africans as different from Europeans. We're dealing with a country that didn't have exposure to either one of these until the Dutch showed up. Okay? So it's not like they had previous experience here to make judgments and say that's inferior to that, that's superior to that. And there's no prejudgment for them to be able to go on. These are both foreign humans to them in their entirety. Okay? And so I have to lean into what we do know about Yasuke, the 3 or 4 paragraphs that are out there that explain him to be a servant of Nobunaga, and primarily that role because Nobunaga was fascinated by him. He had never seen a person that looked like Yasuke or possessed the size of him with that pigmentation, that skin color. All right. Nobunaga even tried to wash the black off of Yasuke several times. That's part of the paragraphs. I think it was 3 times he tried to wash the black off of Yasuke. Now, this is when it wasn't Nobunaga personally taking the old Brillo pad to him or anything. It was, you know, the servants that would, you know, wash him, probably in public, like in front of Nobunaga, so he could witness that it doesn't come off no matter how hard they scrub. And I imagine that was painful for him to sit through so many hours of having people roughly scrub on his skin and then poke and prod at it, which it's already irritated, right? This is the real guy. And he endured all of that to be Nobunaga's buddy. They appeared to have a, you know, that they would get along. I wouldn't say that he'd be invited to tea or he was considered a family member to Nobunaga, but it would appear that Nobunaga found him interesting enough to have him around. And in a time when that was not necessary and also very strange for a Japanese regional lord to do, right? The daimyos didn't really invest themselves too much with Americanizing, with westernizing. This was in a time when this was still kind of a new experiment of having these people operating sort of autonomously against the government. You know, and of course it led to the oh, now I've forgotten what their Christian extermination situation that they went through there. I forgot the tragedy name. I'm so very sorry. It's not on purpose. Just my mind's focusing on Yasuke, and he didn't have anything to do with that. Or, to my knowledge, he doesn't have anything to do with it. We'll have to ask Thomas Lockley if he time traveled too. But either way, what we're looking at here is a guy that in reality led a very miraculous life. To be not only in the time of Sengoku, right? The Sengoku era, granted, it's not like wall-to-wall war, like you're walking around any minute a war is going to break out. But these were very tense times. These were not easy times. Also, you had all these different foreigners in here. Now, imagine yourself a foreigner who does not speak Japanese, who is not very good at communicating primarily because he's 2 languages separated from his native language, right? So now, not only has he tried to learn who, I believe it was the Portuguese who brought him to Japan, you're also now trying to learn Japanese, which doesn't follow Latin whatsoever, okay? Let alone what his native language was. And we don't even know if he came from Africa or not. There's speculation he could have come from India as well. Yet Assassin's Creed wants to present him in this manner with a hip-hop soundtrack behind him. Remember that? Remember when they showed off the gameplay footage of Yasuke beheading a Japanese man? Yeah? Remember that? With the hip-hop soundtrack in the background? The snare drum? The drum machine? Yeah. Why did Ubisoft not show up to Japan? I wonder. Why did they not show off? Why did they not come by? I wonder. Very, very mysterious set of events. But, and I would like to remind everybody, too, that applications opening soon for the Develop at Ubisoft Women and Non-Binary Only mentorship program. They write here, they say, we have an exciting opportunity to create an inclusive entertainment, that is truly reflective of our diverse world. So it's not going to get any better, okay? They run away from Japan for obvious reasons. And you and I both know that. You and I both understand that they avoided this. They thought it was going to work out. But like I said at the top, I think what happened was someone filed to protest. And of course, the event center was made aware of it and told Ubisoft, and they said, bye. They had plans to show up. We read that at the beginning here, that there is a gift campaign that was held to commemorate the exhibit that will continue despite the exhibit not existing. Okay? So consider now, this was abrupt, this was quick, this was not intended from the top. They ran into something that they couldn't conquer. Remember that even if the lead guy who's supposed to present is sick, there's people that can read his script. There's people that can improvise a script to be able to explain all of this to whoever shows up to the expo. Think that the whole group is sick. There's still the Ubisoft Japan staff, not the traveling staff that created the game. There's still the Ubisoft Japan staff who we were told by the art director that are very fully invested in the game. They've been helping out with everything a lot. I don't know, guys. You'll have to let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. But until the next one, good luck out there.